Hello there and welcome to Andy's Shed Live for this Sunday the 24th of September 2017. Hello there and how are you? I hope you're having a great week or had a great week or whatever. I'm just back from a event at Sheffield this afternoon over there at Kelham Island Industrial Museum. It was their Down by the Riverside event today, where I was as part of Sheffield Collectors Club with a display of old phones. So most of the old phones that's normally around me here on the floor and everything that I sort of kick as I do this show are all packed away in boxes at the minute, because they've just got them out the back of the car from the Collectors Club. So I found one that I can put on the thing behind me there. So there's nearly always one over my shoulder there on the side there, isn't there? Right, we will crack on with the show today, and the first thing to say is, remember, you've only got just over a month, I think it is, to get rid of these pound coins if you've got any. And if you've got any of these pound coins still around, they're going out of circulation in about a month's time. I've managed to find one of the rare ones, actually. I don't know if you can see this or not, but yeah, look down here. This is one of the ones with a town on them. If you find one with a town or a city on, then they're quite rare coins, and they might be valuable in years to come. Particularly if you find one with, I think, Edinburgh on it. This one isn't. This one is London, I think. This one. Yeah, it's London, this one, but I don't know if you can see that. But there you go. So I found one of those to add to my collection. Now, what are we going to be talking about today? Well, the topic of conversation today is PBX systems and how to rig them up so phones like this one behind me can all be linked together, and you can dial from one phone to another if you've got them in different rooms in your house. So it's basically making a little mini telephone exchange in your own house. Now, we've had 2 or 3 attempts at making this video to date. If you've been watching live, this is probably about the 3rd time you've seen this, because it's kept going wrong. We've had some glitches with YouTube and things today, so I'm hoping it's going to work this time. Right, so here we go. Right, I need to just find some things on here, and then we'll be able to explain it to you. Alright, here we go. Right, so that is basically the system that I have got here, and you can see on that there's a wall socket. There's a router, which is your normal broadband internet router. There's a box of tricks called the PBX. That's a fairly big box that sort of sits on the floor here. And then there's a little tiny box, which is an ATA, which is an analog terminal adapter. So they're all the things that we have here. Now, things are complicated here, because I have 3 incoming lines that go into the PBX, and from any phone in the house I can dial out on any one of those 3 lines. You'll see the incoming lines on that image are there. They're the orange ones there. So going out of my wall socket, I have got my normal Ethernet cable to my router that connects my router to the phone line for my internet and everything else. And also coming out of my wall socket, then I have got an ordinary telephone line, an ordinary phone line, which is that orange line at the top there, and you'll see that goes into line 1 on the PBX. But into lines 2 and 3 on the PBX are phone lines that actually come in from the ATA, from the analog terminal adapter. Now, I'll explain more about that in a moment. So, there are basically 2 types of call that I can make or receive. I can make a normal telephone call or receive a normal telephone call, but I can also make and receive VoIP calls, and I'm connected to the VoIP system that is basically a recreation of the British telephone system how it used to be years ago, with all the old numbers and things, called CNET, if you want to Google it. And that it's not anything to do with the download site, because there's a download site for computer programs and code called CNET as well. This is a different CNET, but that is what I am connected through the ATA for. So a normal call, a normal telephone call, we'll have a look at first, and a normal call would be routed something like this. Okay, so a normal call would go, an incoming call would come from my wall socket into the PBX on line 1, and then it would go out basically to all those any of those green phones. Actually, what happens, the way I've got it set up, is that when a call comes in, it's not as it shows there where just one phone would ring, they all ring. So all those green phones would ring, and I can pick the call up on whichever one I want to. When dialing out, I just pick up one of those phones and dial a code that will let me dial out on line 1, and then the PBX connects me directly through onto line 1, which goes straight out to the wall socket. So that's how I make and receive an ordinary telephone call. So I mean, if I'm making a call, I might make it off that phone there, or I might make it off that phone there. It makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. But that's how it works when we're making and receiving ordinary calls. So the router and the ATA are not involved in that at all, because that's just how it works when we're doing ordinary calls. Right, if we're doing calls on CNET that come in via VoIP, then it's a little bit different, because a CNET call might go something like this. It comes basically from my wall socket to my router as computer code, and the router then realizes it's a VoIP call, realizes the code is a VoIP call, so it sends the signal out, it routes it to the ATA, to the analog terminal adapter. The analog terminal adapter translates the computer code it's receiving into an ordinary telephone signal, like you would get down an ordinary phone line, an ordinary voice line call, and then sends it out into, in this case, it's showing it going out into line 2 of my PBX, or in this case it's going into line 3 of my PBX. And again, it goes to all of the phones, they all ring in the house, but again, making the call the other way, it just goes from whichever phone I want it to go from. Let's say that one, and by dialing a code I select either line 2 or line 3 for it to go out on, if I want to go out onto CNET, and then that routes it through the ATA, through my router, and then out onto the internet, where it goes to a remote server. It goes to the server of my my VoIP provider. Now in my case, CNET is run like the old British telephone system was, and all the servers on CNET can be kind of regarded as old-fashioned telephone exchanges. So there is a guy in Wales who hosts a couple of lines for me on CNET, and my outgoing call gets translated by the ATA into computer code. The ATA knows where he is, and so the ATA then sends a signal into my router, which then sends a signal out onto the internet to contact the guy in Wales, and it says, "Oi, Andy's trying to dial Joe Bloggs here, can you put him through?" So the server in Wales then contacts Joe Bloggs on his ATA and says, "Andy is trying to call you, I'm putting him through," and then the server puts it through to his ATA, and it works just like this on the other end for whoever I'm calling, in this case Joe Bloggs. So that is how it routes for VoIP. So this could be any VoIP user, of course. I mean, any VoIP operator, really. It doesn't have to be CNET. It could be Skype. It could be Google Talk. It could be any of the voice over IP service providers. It doesn't have to be CNET, because you just program the ATA with whatever service provider's details you are with. They will give you an IP address and things that you program into the ATA, and then that's where it just sends all the data to a server out there. Now, this can be a little bit more complicated, because you can also run CNET servers yourself. I have got one just behind me down here, but down behind here where you can't see, there is a little box which is a CNET server, which is in effect an old-fashioned telephone exchange. And if you call 0246 either 81 or 87 on CNET, your call will be routed into that little box that's behind me there. So if you call anybody who's got a number that starts 0246 81 or 0246 87 on CNET, and note it's 0246, it's not 01246, it's 0246, which is the old-fashioned dialing code, because it's a vintage, it's a recreation of the vintage system. Then it will go via that box of tricks behind me there, that's behind that printer and phone that's sat behind me. So that is how it works. So that is how it routes for CNET. That's how it goes via your router. And of course, those other three little blue dots on the router there, they are where you would plug your other stuff in, like your computer and your printer and things like that. All the other things that you would need to plug into the internet. You've normally got 4 ports on the back of your router, and all mine are full. But that's how you do it for a VoIP call. So it goes over the internet, but as I said, if you want to do it for an ordinary telephone line call, then you don't need the router and the ATA involved. You just go like that over a normal phone cable that's plugged straight into your phone socket in the wall, into the line port, or one of the line ports of the PBX, and then the other end into all of your phones, and that's how you make and receive calls that way. So that is basically how it works. Now, I'm not going to get into explaining how the CNET servers work at the moment. I think that's a thing for another day. That we'll do that some other time, shall we? And we'll explain how the CNET servers work, because it's quite complicated and I don't want to confuse you anymore at this stage. But if you've got any questions about how to set up a PBX, remember, there's ways you can get in touch with us here. If you're watching this on YouTube, of course, you can leave it in the comments somewhere down below. You can leave me a comment and I will get back to you. or remember, we have got a website. You can find us on the old interwebby by going here. It's andyshed.colepress.net. That's andyshed.colepress.net. Now, we've had a few issues with the website, with various people saying they've not been able to get onto the website for the last week or so. And what we've found, there are DNS problems with certain servers. If you are with either BT or TalkTalk, their DNS servers that you connect to basically find your websites for you, find the IP addresses of the websites that you want to browse in your browser. Their DNS servers, for some reason, are not always resolving our web address the way they should. The best thing I can tell you to do is switch your DNS servers to Google DNS, and then you'll find the problem will go away. We are working on the problem. We are in touch with TalkTalk because they are effectively blocking our website. I'm sure it's some kind of computer glitch that's doing it, and we are hoping to get it resolved. But if you've got a problem getting on the website, change your DNS server to the Google DNS server and you should find it's okay. If you just put into Google or something how to switch to Google DNS, you'll find various websites that will tell you how to do it. And then you can go to our website there, andyshed.colepress.net. And remember, if you like what you've been watching here today, and you want to support the show and keep us going, then you can by going to Patreon. We have a page on Patreon, and you can become a patron of this show and also of our new sister show, Escape the Shed, by going to patreon.com/AndyShed. And for a small monthly amount that you pledge to us, and it can be as little as $1 for those of you in America, then you get all kinds of extra goodies as a thank you for supporting us on Patreon. What you get depends on the amount that you pledge. It might be access to videos that nobody else has access to, right up to things like written newsletters quarterly, or even an end of year yearbook. If you fancy one of those, get onto patreon.com/AndyShed there, and then it will all become clear how that works. This is something brand new that we're just setting up over the last couple of weeks or so. So you can get on there if you like. Okay, right, that about wraps it up for another show. As I say, if you're getting a strange feeling of deja vu and you feel you've seen this video before but haven't, then you probably have, because this is the third time we've tried doing this live and uploading it, and we've had all kinds of technical issues with YouTube and things today, but hopefully we will get the gremlins out of the system by next week. We will be back next Sunday evening, 7 o'clock again, with another Andy Shed Live. But for me, for now, have a great week, and until next time, bye for now. And remember to like and subscribe to us, and when you click the subscribe button, also click that little bell icon to get notifications of when we next upload a video. See you next time.